Ever stop to think that the tech you might use to, stay anonymous online could actually have roots deep inside U.S. naval intelligence?
It's definitely one of those surprising twists, isn't it?
Yeah. So today, on the deep dive, we're really getting into TOR the Onion router. We had requests about its safety, especially with those government connections.
Right, and it's a valid question. We'll look at basically how TOR works, its beginnings at the U.S. Naval Research Lab, or NRL.
With DARPA funding, too, I read.
Exactly. DARPA funding was key early on, and we'll touch on the whole debate around its security now, considering agencies like the CIA use it.
Okay, perfect. So the goal here is for you listening to get a clear picture of how TOR anonymizes things,
Yeah.
why it was built protecting communication, right?
Primarily, yes.
What its limits are, and that big question, do those origins, compromise it? We've gone through a ton of material, expert takes, technical details.
Trying to cut through the noise.
So let's dive in. How does TOR actually, hide who you are online?
Okay, so think of it like wrapping a message inside multiple envelopes. Your internet traffic gets wrapped in layers of encryption.
Layers, okay.
Yeah, and when you connect, your data doesn't go straight to the website. It bounces through this network of volunteer computers.
Volunteers, so just random people running servers.
Pretty much. They're called nodes. You have an entry node, one or more middle nodes, and then an exit node.
And each one does something different.
Kind of. Each node only decrypts one layer enough to know where to send the data next. So the middle node doesn't know where you started, and the exit node doesn't know who you are, only where the traffic is going from its own IP address.
Ah, I see. So the website you visit only sees that last computer, the exit node.
Exactly. It hides your specific IP address. That's the core idea,
Yep.
like that postcard you mentioned, passing through different hands.
Gotcha. Okay, so back to those origins. The U.S. Navy. How did that happen?
Well, the fundamental concept, onion routing, was developed back in the mid-90s at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory.
For spying.
More like protecting their own intelligence communications online. People like Paul Syverson, Michael Reed, David Goldschlag were key figures. And DARPA, which has a history with the internet itself.
Right, ARPANET and all that.
Yeah, they provided significant early funding. It was initially a government project for government needs.
But now anyone can use it.
Yeah.
So how did it go from, military tech to public tool? That seems like a big leap.
It was. The turning point was around the early 2000s. The NRL released the TOR source code under an open source license.
Meaning anyone could look at it and change it.
Precisely. That transparency is a big part of the trust argument now. Then, a few years later, in 2006, the nonprofit TOR Project, Inc. was formed to manage it.
And they still get government money. I thought it was independent.
It's complex. They do get funding from U.S. bodies like the State Department and the National Science Foundation, but also from private donors, NGOs, individuals. So it's a mix.
Okay. Which brings us to the CIA connection.
Yeah.
So they didn't build it.
No, they weren't involved in the original development. But reports confirm they use TOR. They even have their own official .onion website, reachable only through TOR.
Why would they use it if they didn't build it? And why make it public?
Well, the common theory, and it is a theory, is strategic. If lots of ordinary people use TOR for everyday privacy, it creates noise. It makes it harder for adversaries to single out intelligence agents using the same network, blending in, basically.
Huh. Camouflage. But wait, haven't we also heard about the NSA and GCHQ in the UK trying to break TOR?
Absolutely. There have been leaked documents and reports suggesting major efforts to de-anonymize TOR users, which, ironically, some see as proof that TOR actually works pretty well. Otherwise, why bother trying to crack it?
That's a weird paradox.
It is. And there's been other controversy, like the TOR project hiring someone who used to work for the CIA, which raised eyebrows. Plus, you see claims, say, from outlets like Xinhua or Global Times, alleging the CIA uses TOR to fuel color revolutions or instability. We're just reporting those claims, not verifying them.
Right, just laying out what's been said. Okay, so clearly it's not perfect. What are the actual weak spots, the vulnerabilities?
There are quite a few, actually. A big one is called end-to-end traffic correlation. If someone powerful can monitor the traffic going into the TOR network and the traffic coming out, they might be able to link them, especially over time.
Like watching both ends of the pipe.
Sort of, yeah. Then there's the risk of malicious nodes. Remember those volunteers? Someone could set up a node, especially an exit node, to snoop on unencrypted traffic passing through it.
So if the website isn't HTTPS?
Exactly. HTTPS is crucial when using TOR because it encrypts your data before it even enters the TOR network, protecting it even if the exit node is dodgy.
Okay, HTTPS. Got it. What else?
Well, there are potential attacks on the network itself, like trying to control a large fraction of the nodes, timing attacks where you analyze traffic patterns, and vulnerabilities can exist in the Tor browser itself. It's based on Firefox and sometimes inherits its flaws. There was one just noted in October 2024.
So you need to keep the browser updated.
Definitely. Plus, things like browser fingerprinting, where websites identify you by your browser's unique configuration, can still be an issue. And old plugins like Flash or Java, very risky with TOR. Even misconfiguring applications you use over TOR can leak info. Oh, and a 2023 code audit found some issues, including a serious one with bridges.
Bridges, what are those?
They're like unlisted entry points to the TOR network, useful if regular TOR access is blocked where you are. But yeah, even those had a potential flaw found.
Wow, okay. So quite a list. Given all that, what do the security experts generally say? Is it safe enough?
The general consensus, I'd say, is that TOR offers a very high level of anonymity when, and this is key, when it's used correctly. It makes tracking individuals extremely difficult.
But not impossible.
Not impossible, no, it's
Yeah.
not magic. And many experts recommend blocking TOR traffic on, say, corporate networks because its use can be associated with risky activities or policy violations. Big takeaway. Anonymity isn't the same as security. You should probably assume someone might be watching the traffic even if they don't know it's you.
Sometimes people talk about using a VPN with TO. Does that help?
It can add another layer, yeah.
Yeah.
VPN over TOR is a common setup, but it adds complexity too.
Right. So who's actually using TOR? Is it all just hackers and journalists?
No, it's a real mix. Legitimate uses are huge. Everyday people wanting privacy from advertisers or ISPs, activists in repressive regimes, journalists communicating securely with sources, people bypassing censorship to access information.
Okay, so lots of valid reasons.
Definitely. But yes, its anonymity also attracts criminals operating on the so-called dark web for illegal marketplaces, communication, etc. It's a dual-use technology.
And law enforcement uses it too, right?
Yeah, ironically. They use it to investigate those same illegal activities, go undercover online. The TOR project folks say they're committed to human rights, but also work to hinder criminal use, which is a tough balancing act.
Okay, so if someone listening decides they do want to use TOR, what are the absolute must-do safety tips? Let's run through them quickly.
Sure. Number one, always keep the TOR browser updated. Always.
Got it. Updates.
Disable risky browser plugins. JavaScript is disabled by default on higher security settings for a reason.
Okay, no plugins.
Be very careful about opening documents you download while using TOR, especially when you're still online. They can contain things that leak your real IP.
Good point. Stick to HTTPS websites.
Absolutely critical. Look for that padlock. Don't use TOR for torrenting. It often ignores proxy settings and reveals your IP.
Right, no torrents.
Consider using bridges if you're worried about your ISP seeing you connect to TOR. Adjust the TOR browser's security level slider depending on your needs.
Higher security means less website functionality sometimes, right?
Yes, it's a trade-off, and maybe the biggest one. Don't log into your personal account's email, social media while using TOR. It defeats the purpose.
Seems obvious, but easy to forget.
Very easy. Maybe consider that VPN over 2 setup if you need extra layers. And just generally be super cautious about sharing any personal information in forums or chats while using TOR.
Okay, that's a solid list.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, what's the main thing you want people to take away about TOR and its safety?
I think the key thing is nuance. Yes, it has these government origins, which is important context and worth thinking about.
But it's not the whole story.
Exactly. Its open source nature, the huge amount of public scrutiny it gets from researchers worldwide, that actually contributes a lot to its security and trustworthiness over time when you use it carefully, following best practices.
Like the ones we just listed.
Right. It can be a really powerful tool for anonymity. But it's absolutely not a silver bullet. It has risks, and you, the user, have to be vigilant.
So it's complicated.
Yeah.
Not just a simple safe or unsafe label.
Definitely not. Understanding the details, the history, the tech that gives you the real picture.
Makes sense. Okay, one final thought to leave everyone with. Thinking about TOR's history, the government links, the ongoing cat-and-mouse game with state surveillance. How do you see things like this evolving? You know, with governments getting more into cyber operations, but people also demanding more privacy online.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How will these anonymity networks adapt? And maybe just as importantly, what responsibility do we as users have in keeping tools like TRR viable and secure? Something to chew on.
Indeed. Thanks for walking us through that. Really appreciate the deep dive.